The discovery. The alarm system at the European Space Agency's Climate Monitoring Station erupted at 3:47 a.m. on March 8, 2024. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a veteran atmospheric scientist with 15 years of polar research experience, was reviewing ice melt data when her screen flooded with red warnings. She leaned forward, her dark eyes narrowing as she studied the readings from Sentinel-6, the agency's most advanced Arctic surveillance satellite. Something massive had shifted beneath the Greenland ice sheet. The ground-penetrating radar showed an object approximately 120 meters in length, buried under 400 meters of ancient ice. But what caught her attention wasn't the size. It was the material composition. The spectral analysis indicated an alloy that matched nothing in Earth's geological database. Elena's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her secure communication device. She had spent her entire career studying ice cores and climate patterns, searching for evidence of Earth's past. She never expected to find evidence of something that might not be from Earth at all. Within 18 hours, the Swedish icebreaker Polaris was cutting through frozen waters toward the coordinates Elena had provided. On board was an unusual collection of specialists assembled in record time by a coalition of space agencies who had agreed to keep the discovery classified until they understood what they had found. Dr. James Chen, a Chinese-American engineer specializing in material science, stood on the deck watching the endless white horizon. At 42, he had examined fragments of meteorites, analyzed moon rocks, and studied samples from Mars. Nothing had prepared him for the possibility of studying technology from beyond the solar system. Beside him stood Major Sarah Okonkwo, a Nigerian pilot and aerospace expert who had logged more hours in experimental aircraft than anyone in her generation. Her military background made her the natural choice for security and logistics. She carried herself with quiet confidence, her intelligent eyes constantly assessing their surroundings. The team's medical specialist was Dr. Yuki Tanaka from Japan, a biologist who specialized in extremophiles and astrobiology. She had spent years studying organisms that survived in impossible conditions, always wondering what forms life might take on other worlds. Now she might finally get her answer. Rounding out the core team was Professor Anton Volkov, a Russian physicist and expert in energy systems. His wild white beard and perpetual enthusiasm made him seem like a character from a children's story, but his mind was razor sharp. He had spent decades theorizing about propulsion systems that could enable interstellar travel. Elena gathered the team in the ship's briefing room as they approached the site. The satellite images were projected on the wall, showing the massive anomaly beneath the ice. The object has been there for at least 10,000 years, based on the ice layer analysis, Elena explained, her Spanish accent becoming more pronounced as her excitement grew. Possibly much longer. The ice sheets in this region formed during the last glacial period, which means whatever this is, it predates recorded human civilization. James studied the thermal imaging scans. These energy readings are impossible. The object is generating a measurable heat signature despite being frozen for millennia. Nothing we know of could maintain an energy source for that long. Unless it's not using energy as we understand it, Anton suggested, his eyes gleaming with scientific curiosity. What if we're looking at technology that operates on principles we haven't discovered yet? Sarah crossed her arms, her expression serious. We need to proceed with extreme caution. If this is some kind of weapon or contains biological hazards, we could be putting the entire planet at risk. That's why I'm here, Yuki said quietly. She had set up a mobile containment laboratory on the ship, equipped with systems designed to handle unknown biological threats. We won't expose anyone to potential dangers without proper protocols. The excavation took 6 days of continuous work. The team used thermal lances to melt through the ice, creating a massive shaft that descended into the frozen depths. The work was exhausting and dangerous. Temperatures hovered around -40 degrees Celsius, and the constant threat of ice collapse kept everyone on edge. Elena descended into the shaft on the 5th day, suspended by cables in an insulated suit that made her feel like an astronaut. Her headlamp cut through the blue-white darkness of the ancient ice. Around her, the walls glittered with trapped air bubbles from an atmosphere that existed when humans were still learning to make fire. "I'm at 380 meters," she reported through her radio. "I can see something ahead. The ice is different here. It has a crystalline structure I've never encountered before." As she descended the final 20 meters, her light reflected off something that made her breath catch. The ice had formed a natural dome around the object, as if the craft itself had melted its way down and then frozen in place. Through the semi-transparent ice, she could see smooth, metallic surfaces that curved in ways that seemed to defy conventional geometry. "Team, you need to see this," she whispered, activating her helmet camera. On the surface, the others watched their monitors in stunned silence as Elena's camera revealed what lay beneath the ice. The craft was enormous, its hull featuring designs that suggested both incredible sophistication and an aesthetic sense completely alien to human understanding. James was the first to break the silence. "Those surface patterns aren't decorative. Look at how they intersect. That's a mathematical formula, but not any system I recognize. 3-dimensional, maybe 4-dimensional." The next 2 days were spent carefully melting the ice around the craft's hull. They worked with scientific precision, documenting every centimeter of exposed surface. The metal itself seemed to absorb light in strange ways, appearing silver one moment and deep blue the next, depending on the angle. Anton set up sensors around the excavation site, measuring every form of radiation and energy emission he could detect. The readings were bizarre. "It's like the craft is breathing," he explained to the others. "The energy signature pulses in regular intervals. Roughly every 43 seconds, there's a slight increase in electromagnetic activity." "A distress beacon?" Sarah suggested. "Or a heartbeat?" Yuki added softly. On the 8th day, they found what appeared to be an entrance. The seam in the hull was barely visible, marked only by a slight variation in the metal surface pattern. James ran his gloved hand across it, and to everyone's astonishment, the metal rippled like liquid at his touch. "It's responding to contact," he said, his voice tight with excitement and fear. "The material is still active after all this time." They set up a containment tent around the entrance, creating an airlock system to prevent any potential contamination in either direction. Yuki's biological sensors monitored the air quality as they prepared to open the craft. Sarah volunteered to enter first, wearing a fully sealed hazmat suit equipped with cameras and sensors. "If there's any danger, better it's someone with military training," she insisted. Elena squeezed her shoulder. "We go together, all of us. This is humanity's moment, not one person's." The entrance opened with a sound like wind chimes, the metal seeming to fold into itself. Beyond was darkness that their lights struggled to penetrate. The air that emerged was cold, but breathable, with an unusual scent that Yuki described as like ozone mixed with cinnamon. They entered single file, moving through a corridor that curved in ways that made their sense of direction uncertain. The walls emitted a faint bioluminescent glow, growing brighter as they progressed deeper into the craft. Strange symbols covered every surface, flowing across the metal like living text. "This writing system is phenomenal," Elena breathed, recording everything. "It's 3-dimensional. The symbols have depth and seem to change based on viewing angle." The corridor opened into a vast chamber that took their breath away. The space was impossibly large given the craft's exterior dimensions, suggesting technology that could manipulate space itself. In the center of the chamber were 3 crystalline pods, each containing a figure. The beings were humanoid, but distinctly alien. They stood roughly 2 meters tall, with elongated limbs and smooth, pearl-like skin that shimmered with subtle iridescence.
Their faces were elegant, with large eyes closed in what appeared to be peaceful sleep. They wore suits of a material that seemed to shift between solid and liquid states. "They're preserved," Yuki whispered, her medical scanner working frantically. "But not dead, at least not in any way I understand. Their cellular structure is... My God, it's still functioning at a molecular level. They're in some kind of suspended animation." Anton approached a console near the pods, his hands hovering over controls that look like frozen liquid crystal. "The entire ship is in hibernation mode. Everything is running at minimal power, just enough to maintain these life support systems." James examined the chamber's walls, which were covered in what appeared to be star maps. "They came from far away. Very far. These stellar configurations, I'd need to consult astronomical databases, but some of these constellations don't match."
The revelation. The alien's hand pressed against the crystalline pod created ripples of light that spread throughout the chamber like waves across still water. Elena felt her heart hammering as she stepped forward, her scientific training battling with the primal fear of encountering something utterly unknown. "Nobody make any sudden movements," Sarah instructed calmly, though her hand instinctively moved toward the emergency beacon on her belt. "We don't know if it's hostile." Yuki's medical scanner was going wild, recording biological data that made no sense according to Earth's understanding of life. Its physiology is incredible. The cellular structure operates on quantum principles. It's like looking at biology and technology merged into one system. The being inside the pod turned its swirling eyes toward Yuki, and somehow, impossibly, a voice emerged in the chamber. It wasn't sound in the traditional sense, but something that resonated directly in their minds, translating itself into each person's native language. "We mean no harm. We are the remnants of the Etherian civilization. I am Keeper Zaleth, guardian of the last sanctuary ship." The humans exchanged shocked glances. James found his voice first. "You can communicate with us? How is that possible?" "Your neural patterns are being interpreted by the ship's consciousness," Zaleth explained, still confined within the pod. "We have traveled for 3,000 cycles of your world around its star, searching for a place where our people might survive. When our ship could travel no further, we entered preservation sleep, waiting for a time when this planet's dominant species might reach the capability to find us." Anton moved closer, his scientific curiosity overcoming his caution. "You've been waiting for us, for humanity to evolve enough to discover you?" "Evolution is universal, though it takes different forms across the cosmos," Zaleth responded. The colors in the being's eyes shifted to deeper hues, suggesting what might have been sadness. "We calculated that intelligent life on this world would eventually develop the technology necessary to detect our vessel. We hoped you would also develop the wisdom to help rather than destroy what you did not understand." Elena felt tears forming in her eyes as the implications washed over her. 3,000 years. You've been frozen beneath the ice for 3,000 years, waiting for us to find you." The pod's crystal surface began to dissolve completely, and Zaleth stepped forward with movements that were graceful, yet distinctly alien. The being stood before them, tall and elegant, wearing a suit that seemed to be alive, constantly adjusting to the environment. "We fled the convergence," Zaleth said, and the ship itself seemed to shudder at the mention of that name. "A force that consumes civilizations, assimilating their knowledge and resources before moving to the next world. They had already destroyed 17 systems in our stellar neighborhood when we escaped." Sarah's military instincts went on full alert. "This convergence, are they still a threat? Could they follow you here?" "We do not know," Zaleth admitted, moving toward one of the wall panels. At the being's touch, the symbols rearranged themselves into images that the humans could comprehend. They saw civilizations rising and falling, vast fleets of ships that looked like swarms of insects consuming everything in their path. Yuki approached cautiously, her medical training overcoming her fear. "The other two in the pods? Are they like you? Keepers?" "They are my companions, Scholar Myrith, who holds the collected knowledge of our people, and Engineer Vox, who understands the deepest secrets of our technology." Zaleth gestured toward the inactive pods. but their preservation systems failed centuries ago. I am the only one who remains conscious. The others survive, but barely. Their revival requires energy that our damaged ship cannot generate. James examined the engineering section Zaleth had revealed on the display. His mind raced as he tried to comprehend technology that operated on principles humanity had barely theorized. What caused your ship to crash here? What damaged your systems so severely? We did not crash, Zaleth corrected gently. We chose this location deliberately. Your magnetic field, combined with the extreme cold of the polar region, created ideal conditions for long-term preservation. We calculated that the ice would protect us while we waited, and that any sufficiently advanced civilization that discovered us would find us here, away from population centers, reducing the risk of cultural contamination or panic. Anton laughed despite himself, a sound of pure scientific joy. You anticipated first contact protocols 3,000 years before we even had the concept. Remarkable. We have witnessed many first contacts across the galaxy, Zaleth said, and there was something ancient and weary in the being's mental voice. We learned that the meeting of civilizations is a delicate thing. Species that encounter each other too early often destroy one another through misunderstanding or fear. Species that meet too late find they have nothing left to offer each other. Elena moved to stand beside Zaleth, looking at the star maps together. And humanity? Are we ready for this contact? Are we at the right stage? Zaleth's colors shifted to something that might have been hope mixed with uncertainty. That is not for me to determine. You are still young as civilizations measure such things. You have not yet unified your world or ventured beyond your immediate stellar neighborhood, but you have developed the curiosity to seek us out and the courage to enter an unknown ship. These are promising signs. The team spent the next several hours in what could only be described as the most important conversation in human history. Zaleth shared knowledge of the Etherian civilization, explaining how they had mastered technologies that allowed them to manipulate matter at the quantum level, travel faster than light, and extend their consciousness beyond physical form. But more importantly, Zaleth explained why they had come to Earth specifically. Your world is unique in the galaxy, the Keeper explained, calling up images of Earth from space. Life here evolved along pathways we have rarely encountered. Your planet's biodiversity, the complexity of your ecosystems, the resilience of life in extreme conditions, all of this represents something precious. When we fled the convergence, we sought not just survival, but meaning. We hoped to find a world where life was cherished, where a species might value preservation over conquest. Sarah considered this carefully. You're asking us to protect you, to help revive your companions, but you're also testing us, aren't you? Seeing if humanity is worthy of the knowledge you carry. Yes, Zaleth admitted, without hesitation. The technology within this ship could advance your civilization by thousands of years. Clean energy that could power your entire world without environmental cost. Medical knowledge that could eliminate diseases and extend lifespan significantly. Transportation systems that could take you to other stars. But such power in unprepared hands would be catastrophic. James understood the dilemma immediately. Knowledge without wisdom leads to destruction. You've seen it happen before. Many times, Zaleth confirmed sadly. Civilizations that gained advanced technology before they developed the social and ethical frameworks to use it responsibly. They turned their new powers inward, creating weapons of unimaginable destruction. Or they turned outward, becoming conquerors themselves. The convergence began that way, in fact, a species that mastered technology but lost its capacity for compassion. The team retreated to their camp on the surface to discuss what they had learned. The implications were staggering. In the heated tent, with the Arctic wind howling outside, 5 humans debated the future of their entire species. We have to share this discovery, Elena argued passionately. Keeping it secret would be a betrayal of everything science stands for. This is humanity's heritage now. But we also have a responsibility to be careful, Yuki countered. If we reveal the ship's existence and location, every nation with military capability will want access to it. The technology could trigger wars before we even understand what we're dealing with. Anton paced back and forth, his usual enthusiasm tempered by the weight of responsibility. Zaleth is right about the danger of premature technological advancement. We've barely managed to avoid destroying ourselves with nuclear weapons. Imagine giving that same immature civilization the ability to manipulate space-time or create matter from energy. Sarah had been quiet, listening to the debate with her military mind analyzing possibilities. Finally, she spoke. There's another consideration. If the convergence is still out there, still expanding, then eventually they might reach Earth. Having access to Etherian technology might be the only way to defend ourselves when that happens. That could be centuries from now, James pointed out. Or it could be next week. We have no way of knowing. The debate continued through the night, exploring every angle, every possibility. They were 5 people making a decision that would affect billions. The pressure was overwhelming. Finally, as dawn broke over the Arctic ice, Alana made a proposal. What if we take a middle path? We report the discovery but recommend international oversight, United Nations control with representatives from every nation involved in studying the ship. No single country gets access to the technology. We share the knowledge gradually, only releasing what we're ready to handle responsibly. That will never work, Sarah said bluntly. Nations will compete. Secrets will be stolen. Within a year, multiple countries will have their own programs trying to reverse engineer Etherian technology. Maybe, Alana acknowledged, but it's better than either hiding it completely or creating a free-for-all. At least with international cooperation, we have checks and balances, multiple perspectives, multiple ethical frameworks examining each decision. They returned to the ship with their proposal. Zaleth listened carefully, those swirling eyes seeming to see deep into each person's heart and mind. Your solution is imperfect, the keeper said finally, but perfection is a myth that only immature civilizations pursue. Your proposal shows understanding of your own limitations and a desire to include diverse